All right, so Jon Favreau had inaugurated the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Iron Man a decade before and was steeped in large-scale serialized storytelling. The actor and director had also become so proficient with visual effects that his most recent Disney projects, The Jungle Book and The Lion King, were often mistakenly described as live action, even though both are almost entirely digitally simulated. And I'll say this too, having not seen The Jungle Book, the effects for The Lion King did look good, except for the fact that there was no expression in the animals' faces, which I've heard that they actually managed to pull off in the Jungle Book.
Yeah,
But you've seen the Jungle
well,
Book, Michael?
yeah. Yes, and I can honestly say that you can see a little bit more her expression, but then again, we're dealing with different animals, like a lot more different animals than in Lion King, where
Right. Um, I knew that Jon Favreau was always deeply interested in Star Wars. He was the first person I went to, Kennedy says. He said, not only would I have an interest, I have an idea. Plus, he was willing to meet that new criteria of hers. What's unique about John is his commitment, Kennedy says. He's had a sole focus on pretty much this for the last several years. That's been a godsend. After meeting at Kennedy's office in Santa Monica, Favreau started to work even without a contract. I just started writing, he says. So by the time I was officially hired, I had already written the first 4 episodes. But there was a problem. Favreau's idea was about a Mandalorian, the helmeted tribe of galactic warriors who frequently turn up as mercenaries or bounty hunters. The first, and for a long time the only, Mandalorian in the early Star Wars films was Boba Fett, and Lucasfilm planned to make him the central character in a feature film developed by director James Mangold, who, by the way, is currently directing Indiana Jones 5.
mm,
That wasn't the problem, although Favreau would eventually pick up the Boba Fett story after Mangold moved on to another Lucasfilm property directing Indiana Jones 5, like I just said. The problem Kennedy faced was that another esteemed creative executive, Dave Filoni, had also devised a series focused on Mandalorians. Filoni is the colorful cowboy hat wearing mastermind behind many of Lucasfilm's animated shows. He joined the company in 2005 as an apprentice to Lucas himself and developed the Clone Wars with him. Filoni wanted to explore some of the ideas they'd never fully realized. I remember when I did Clone Wars, George came in and said, well, the Mandalorians are pacifists in this time period. I'm like, oh, well, that's very different than what everybody thinks they are. And he was like, well, you've got to remember that people are never just one thing. Cultures evolve and they change over time, which that's actually a really good quote by George Lucas and how he justifies, Duchess Satine and all of them. Being able to channel the creator makes Filoni indispensable at Lucasfilm. He was a critical part of the company's new TV ventures, and Kennedy had been nurturing his filmmaking ambitions ever since her arrival. Favreau and Filoni were friendly, but Kennedy feared a turf war might erupt. She devised a fix. I arranged a playdate, she said. After meeting in Los Angeles, Favreau and Filoni exchanged ideas and drawings for a Mandalorian show that could combine their ideas. They got along instantly like gangbusters, Kennedy says. Filoni's knowledge of Mandalorian history blended with Favreau's lone gunslinger concept. More importantly, the new partners challenged each other. Favreau's idea for Baby Yoda was the biggest sticking point. It gave us some pause, Kennedy says. He and Dave debated that ferociously. Now, moving on completely out of topic, here is Hayden Christensen swinging a lightsaber again. That
yes,
looks amazing. Especially the
and
fact that he has the cape and the cape is blowing and I'm sure the fan's blowing it back, but that is cool.
yeah, sounds almost like method acting almost, but not quite method acting. That's an entirely
Yeah.
different thing.
Baby Yoda, of course, is the pistachio-hued scene stealer who would melt the Mandalorian's icy bounty hunter heart by becoming the innocent he must protect at all costs. The little one remained under wraps until the debut of the first episode, then instantly became an object of global adoration. His real name is Grogu, but in our world he is forever Baby Yoda. Honestly, it's something I never would have done because Yoda is Yoda, Filoni says. Yoda's homeworld and backstory were never fully revealed, and Filoni wanted to protect the mystery that Lucas had built around the original Jedi Master. I think people now look back and think it was like a slam dunk, but we were very cautious, Filoni says of Baby Yoda. The amount of measuring, especially in the first person, for how we were framing this kid took a lot of effort. The pair spoke with Vanity Fair in a joint Zoom meeting interview. As Filoni described his initial reservations in one window, Favreau disappeared from another, rustling through papers, and then returned with sketches and drawings of Mando and the child. One of them, drawn by Filoni himself, shows the baby's hand reaching out of a floating bassinet toward his burly protector. Most of the other concepts were off-putting, wrinkled, feral, or cartoonish. It's easy to understand Filoni's hesitation. There were a lot of different looks that popped up, and then we finally got one that clicked. It's this drawing, Favreau says, tapping a full-colored concept image by artist Chris Alsman, now emblazoned on countless pieces of merchandise. In it, the child sits in a bulky brown onesie with wide doe eyes and a slightly derpy expression. That's him, this one, Favreau says. He had kind of a goofy, ugly look. We didn't want him to too cute. Part of his charm is that you feel a little pity for the guy, like Chaplin's Tramp or Charlie Brown. There was never an alternative creative suggestion. It's not like we might have gotten a crustacean like Baby Akbar on lunchboxes, dolls, backpacks, and t-shirts. Just imagining that is hilarious. And we
Yeah.
may never have gotten the child at all if Lucasfilm hadn't solved another even bigger problem with The Mandalorian. How to create a show that goes to new worlds in every episode without the backbreaking budgetary demands of shipping a crew to the farthest reaches of our own planet. We were making series that were meant to sit alongside our films with a third of the budget and half the time, said Carrie Beck, a development and production executive at Lucasfilm who co-executive produced The Mandalorian. I gotta slow down my reading. While it became a huge success, I feel like everybody's blood, sweat, and tears are on that screen. Ironically, the thing that cleared their path was a wall. So, before we get into the next section, Michael, what did you think of all of that?
Well, I would say that one thing that probably made Grogu or Baby Yoda so popular is that the article mentions how Dave Filoni wanted to protect the mystery of Yoda, and I can definitely understand that because aside from Yaddle, Yoda was the only person that we know of from his species. But the way
Mm-hmm.
that the Mandalorian did it was that they pretty much gave us Baby Yoda wrapped up in a box, literally speaking.
Yes.
And they just said, "Here he is," and that was it. And if anything, it gave us even more questions about the Yoda species.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I certainly remember what I was thinking when I saw him. I'm like, whoa, this is new.
Yeah,
What are they going to do here? But, anyways, yeah. One thing though that really intrigued me with that section was um how Kathleen Kennedy talks about how she introduced Jon Favreau to Dave Filoni, and she
mhm,
was the one that asked Jon Favreau to come in and help. And
yeah,
to be perfectly honest, and some people are not going to like hearing this, but to me, that's a torpedo blow to the idea that there's been a Lucasfilm civil war between Jon Favreau and
yeah,
Kathleen Kennedy. Now, I have all the respect in the world for the people that have put forth this rumor. I still respect them.
mhm,
But rumors can be wrong. And at least for me, as of now, this rumor has been proven wrong. What do you
yeah,
think?
yeah. I mean, the article says it that Kathleen Kennedy was probably aware of something like that happening,
Mm-hmm.
and even before John Favreau was permanently with Lucasfilm, he still, well, it helped him out because who was the person behind Pre Vizsla and introduced the dark saber? It was
Jon
him.
Favreau
It
and
was
Dave
him.
Filoni. Jon
Yes.
Favreau already knew Dave Filoni.
Yeah. So it's a bit harder to say just because the way that the article words it makes it seem like John Favreau and Dave Filoni never knew each other pre Mandalorian, but obviously, since Pre Vizsla was voiced by Jon Favreau, that's not the case. Now, I'm
Right.
sure that they mean it in a different way where Jon Favreau was just simply a voice and might have had some sort of producer credit, but never on such a scale as what was going on then because Jon Favreau was with Marvel for the longest time. In fact, you can kind of see his role in Marvel kind of increasing as did his role Happy Hogan, where
Exactly.
it says in the article his role for Happy in the first Iron Man was nothing more than just a driver who brought Burger King to Tony Stark. But then now he's literally a mentor to Spider Man. Well, was, I should say.
Right.